this is John for MTG Nexus. Moving a little bit away from the Valky decks that have been the dominant force on the channel the last couple of days, primarily because they are likely, after an announcement the other day, getting banned or errated on Monday finally, as Wizards announced, kind of on the sly a little bit, that in their announcement of the Secret Lair stuff for Valentine's Day, that they will be banning Uro in basically all formats outside of possibly Legacy. So, and it's part of a larger ban announcement. A lot of people speculating that means a ban or a change to the Cascade mechanic for Valky, and also possibly other things like Feel the Dead or Mystic Sanctuary being on the chopping block. So for now, the format still has Cascade in it, the format still has Uro in it, so we're taking that into account with our sideboarding today. As many of you are aware, Cascade's kind of the tier 0 deck in the format right now, whether you're cascading into Tibalt's Trickery and Emrakul's, or you're cascading into Valky, and then flipping it into Tibalt Cosmic Imposter and going off from there. Those are the kind of the big things in the format right now outside of Uro. So for that reason, we're playing Deafening Silence and Roiling Vortex in our sideboard to have enough outs to those particular menaces. The basic list hasn't changed much. Maybe I should be running less Searing Blazes, as there hasn't been quite as many creature decks. Although a lot of leagues I'm noticing people are running into, things like Prowess and such. Maybe we're not having quite that luck, but other people have. Played some leagues and stuff, or played another league and a prelim off stream last night with Jund, Cascade. Ran into a lot of what you'd expect. I think I ran into Death and Taxes, Hammer Time, Blue-White Control. In the prelim, I saw a couple of the Blue Mirror variants, some type of 4-color Jund nonsense. I wasn't quite sure what was going on with that because they just got Blood Moon and destroyed. And then finally ran into Oops All Spells. So, prelims are always a different animal. People are trying to gun more for the big decks in those events. So what you're going to run into in prelims and the upper end of challenges and stuff are a little bit different than what you're going to see in leagues. So kind of have to respond accordingly. But like I said, this is just a very basic Boros Burn list. Only 4 copies of Canopy Lands, no Fiery Islets in this list. Currently running the 2 Skull Cracks, 2 Lightning Helixes, and the 4 Searing Blades as our kind of flex blots. Rift Bolts and 4 Rift Bolt, 4 Skewer. This isn't always standard anymore, so that's kind of like the the usual stuff. Your usual core of burn anymore is these 16 spells, 4 Boros Charm, 4 Eidolon, and then the numbers on the Helixes, Skull Cracks, Blazes, Rift Bolts, and Skewers kind of varies from list to list. Some people run 19 lands. I usually prefer to run 20 just because getting stuck on one land is just as bad as flooding out in burn. Because if you notice, a good chunk of your spells are 2-drop spells or 3-drop spells that are conditional 1-drop spells. So you need to be able to cast these spells off the top. Sometimes your Rift Bolt or your Skewer the Critics is the last spell you draw to try to win the game. And if you're stuck with it in hand for that extra turn, not having a 3rd land can sometimes punish you and cause you to lead games. Sideboard, as I kind of mentioned, Precursory, Deafening Silence, and Rolling Vortex primarily here for any type of Cascade decks we run into. Vortex obviously does have other utility against life gain, especially since we're only running the 2 Skullcrack. Smash to Smithereens possibly should be Wear Terrors right now, as ley lines are kind of on the uptick, especially in the Cascade decks. Although I've noticed the hate in those decks kind of varies. Sometimes it's those, sometimes it's Timely, sometimes it's Core Firewalker. So, the utility of that is kind of up for debate. 4-Path to Exile, in part because Core Firewalker is seeing a lot more play, especially in the Cascade. The 5-color blue Cascade suit piles are running that, plus Uro, plus Omnath, so sometimes you just need to be able to remove them cleanly. Relic of Progenitus, once again, although it's not great against the Cascade decks. You know, a lot of them are still running Uro and Omnath based on Doom Switches, Canisters, and McWin Sauces builds. So that's something to note, as well as the Roiling Vortexes and those matchups. So you'll be bringing in potentially a lot of cards against the blue variants. So that said, let's hop into a league and see what kind of awaits Burn in the current meta. Last time out, obviously, we didn't run particularly well against the format, as we ran into like 3 Tibalt's Trickery decks and 4 copies of Roiling Vortex and 2 copies of whatchamacallit just wasn't enough. So 2 copies of Deflecting Palm, which are not currently in the sideboard. Deflecting Palm honestly just doesn't feel like the right sideboard card for the Cascade-ish matchups, even the Tibalt's Trickery ones. Yeah, it potentially has a higher upside than something like opponent's mulliganing. That's not a good sign right now, but I do think we keep this hand. It's a 1-lander on the draw, but we do have a lot of 1-mana burn spells, so we're going to keep this hand, see what happens. Alright, so opponent suspends Ancestral Visions on 1. I don't know what to make of that. Probably Restore Balance would be my guess. Yeah, I'm definitely getting some Restore Balance vibes. Possible I was supposed to Boros Charm there before they get Remand and stuff up, but yep, like I said, I was getting some Restore Balance vibes here. So our opponent is at 7. Then I need another Boros Charm to kill them. If I keep these 2, then I need another 2 spells to kill them. So I guess I keep these 2. I'm going to go ahead and fire off both just while they're tapped out. If they have Remand or Force of Negation or any of that nonsense, I just want to get those out of my hand. This allows us to potentially top deck a Boros Charm for the win. Instead, we top deck a land, which is about the worst thing we could see here, because we're on a 2-turn clock. So, well, we were on a 2-turn clock regardless, so that doesn't really change the math. Well, that would potentially have changed the math, but doesn't change the fact that we're just dead. So. So Deafening Silence isn't great, as it hamstrings our ability to a certain degree. However, our opponent is trying to play both Electro Balance and let me check how Electro Balance is specifically worded. Morning, guys. Sorry, I was concentrating on the game, didn't even see. I believe Electro Balance says cast. Electro Dominance, sorry. May cast a card with converted mana cost in your hand from X or less without paying its mana cost. Yeah, so Deafening Silence would actually stop that. So we are going to bring in Deafening Silence as well. It's not the best, but, you know, it's a thing. I'm going to board out a couple of Rift Bolts. They could even bring in Chalice, but I think Smash is a little loose, so I'm going to go with this. See our hate card, but we don't have a land, so this hand isn't great either, but I do think we keep it. It's still fine against As Foretold because it keeps them from casting a spell in the same turn cycle, or the same turn. Like, it's not great, but it's still better than some of the other stuff we have. Like I said, Kirk, it's not great, but it's still a sideboard hate card. Well, do you have... Oh, it stops our own card from being cast. Oops. Yeah, there's the As Foretold. Funny part is Restore Balance doesn't stop this nonsense. Yep. Yep, and now we're going to lose all of our lands, because, you know, opponent's a giant whatever. Oh. Mwah. I don't know if we're going to win the match, but that game was fun. Well, yeah, because our opponent will die to Vortex before we die to Greater Gargadon, and they just sacked all their lands, so, you know. Interesting. Well, we have Vortex, so I think we sign up for this one. Our opponent kept a 7-card hand, so that could be scary. We could get Rhino'd on turn 2, which would be unfortunate, but yeah. Not much we can do about it. Well, we could, like I said, we could still die to turn 2 Rhinos, so... Just hoping it resolves is the trick. A little bit harder on the draw. Is our opponent... Are we about to get Rhino'd on turn 1? We are about to get Rhino'd on turn 1. Oh my. Well, game over. That was fun. I guess. I mean, if you're rooting for the other team, that was nice. Oh, that was rough. Do Rhinos win? Do Rhinos win? I remember when Crash of Rhinos was like a card way back in the day. They just played Crash of Rhinos for like 2 mana and 2 cards. I'd just put 8 power and play. Good luck. Turn 1. Yeah, that's another card I wouldn't mind seeing getting the Banhammer on Monday. Just the absurdity that that card fuels. This hand's fine. We're on the draw, unfortunately, which seems terrible in this meta, but, you know. I'm feeling... Okay. So, we're not getting Cascaded, but we might be getting Death Shadowed here. Activates turning themselves. It's not even a spell. It's just mana. What the frick is going on here? I'm having some GDS vibes. I don't know why. I'm just having some GDS vibes. Opponent could have Bolt, but I'm still going to jam Goblin Guide here. Yeah, this thing's definitely getting bolted. Maybe not. What is going on over there? You don't shock yourself unless you're GDS, though. Okay. I am intrigued. I have no idea what the heck's going on over there, but I'm interested. Maybe an Urza pile of some type? But I suspect there's a Renin 6 or a Loam somewhere in there. I have no idea what's going on. No idea, but I am intrigued. Well, now that they've announced the banning of Uro, I've seen people starting to innovate a little bit. Don't hold your breath. It could be an Uro pile of some kind, which is whatever. You're still dealing yourself a shite ton of damage. Okay, so what? Okay, this is okay. Running 6, sure. Probably should have potentially played Sunbay Canyon there. Like I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm intrigued nonetheless. Especially since my opponent is, like, almost deliberately dealing themselves damage against a burn deck. I know you want to play your Renin 6, but it's not really that good against burn. Don't hold your breath. It could have an Uro here, and none of it matters, so, you know, is what it is. You know, yeah, pretty much. What I found funny yesterday is, so I was playing the Jund, whatchamacallit deck off stream, and I played against the Tibalt's Trickery deck twice. And I was like, didn't have the Mind Break traps in my sideboard, right? So, theoretically, it should be a bad matchup. Turns out Fast Blood Moons are a bitch for that deck to power through. I think the only thing I saw my opponent do that, like, kind of got around Blood Moon was they had to play Simeon's Spirit Guide into... No, the Jund, whatchamacallit deck. The Jund Cascade deck. So I don't have discard spells. So my opponent actually had to... Are they about to discard an Uro? That'd be like the ultimate gangster move here. I have so many cards in my hand, I'm going to discard an Uro. But, no, my opponent died to Blood Moon. I don't know. How many times? Let's give you so much crap that you have to deal with that you're not gonna know what to do here. But no, my opponent had to cast Simeon's Spirit Guide and then Tibalt's Trickery it to try to spin something. And then they died anyway. Because I think they hit like a, either a Ulamog. No, they didn't hit a Ulamog. They either hit a Kozilek or a something or other, neither of which were particularly relevant. I'm still intrigued by what my opponent's doing. It's interesting, at least. Okay. I mean, they're still going to die this turn unless they have double Force of Negation, so it's kind of whatever. What do you even bring in against that? Still intrigued despite your comment. So are we presuming they're on an Uro pile? Like, we saw Bolt run in 6 Heart of Kirin. I don't know how to sideboard against that. You know? Like, are we just, like, presuming generic anti-life gain nonsense? Don't know. You know? Just kind of bring in Vortex and Relic and kind of go from there. We only saw Heart of Curon. I'm not sure that that's enough to justify bringing in Artifact Hate. Four lands, 3 Boros Charms. Let her rip. I mean, we have 12 points of burn right here. I still think this hand's a mulligan with the 4-lander. This hand's much closer to keepable. Put back one of the lands. This hand's reasonable. Put back one of the fetches, I think. Well, they're on Temur, so it's kind of hard to play Sultai. I don't think he's gonna kill himself this game against Burn. Okay, so they're just Temur. I'm gonna laugh if we get like Death Shadowed out of nowhere. It'd be freaking hilarious. Okay, so they are an Urza pile. That's what I wondered. Yep. Oh yeah. I thought they might be, but it's still, you know, good to confirm. Just gonna bolt this, see if they force it. And we're gonna play Relic. So I could have Lightning Helix there to be more mana efficient, but I really just wanted to get the Relic down under non-force of negation counter magic. It's all good, man. I kind of figured that you were distracted. It's all good. Oh no, not another Emery. Whatever will I do? Okay, so opponent's trying to hold up counter magic here. Huh. So we can suspect our opponent's on some type of negation or effect thereof. Brazen Borrower, sure. wasn't expecting the Brazen Borrower, but I actually like the adventure cards seeing more play. I am happy for that. About the only thing we don't want to see here is a... we really don't want to see a Urza here. Weather the Storm would also be brutal. Ether Gust that. Yeah, I think we're going to put that on bottom. Apparently opponent wants to draw lands? Question mark. They're drawing a Bone Crusher Giant. So we are never, ever attacking with Goblin Guide again. Alright, so, you have a counterspell, or would you like to Bone Crusher Giant something? Ah, you have the Remand. So now I can attack with Goblin Guide. They draw a Mystic Sanctuary. Most importantly, you don't have a Lightning Bolt. This is dangerous because this does put the shields down for something like Uro. Not that they can get it in the graveyard and back out in a turn cycle, but you know, still kind of scary. So it looks like, I don't know if our opponent has Urza in their deck, but they've got a lot of other cool stuff going on. They've got some adventure creatures, they've got some Emeries, they've got some Heart of Kurons. What are they getting back here? Bolt, maybe? I don't know that you need to get back Bolt here when you have Bone Crusher chilling in hand, chilling like a villain. So they're considering putting Ether Gust back on top and do so. Alright. Do you have any way to draw it, is the question. We know one of their cards in hand is Bone Crusher. I'm gonna do this to restrict them on mana a little bit. Temur Battle Rage. Wowzers. My opponent is full of the good stuff. Oh, they drew it off of the bauble. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I played into a Ether Gust that I knew about because our opponent drew it. Derpa derpa. It's probably a card they really don't want to use. Just hazarding a guess. And that's Temur Battle Rage in their hand and one unknown. No turn 2. Confuzzled. If they tap that, they go to 3 and then they're dead. Response to the card draw, I'm going to bolt you, and then during my upkeep, you're going to die. Or during the upkeep, you're going to die, regardless if you bounce this or not. Alright. A lot of it depends on if SSG gets banned on Monday or not. So, Wizards slyly announced yesterday in an article that Uro is getting banned, which is a key part of most of the control decks in the format. But there's also a Cascade mechanic monster going on right now, with both Tibalt's Trickery and Tibalt Cosmic Enforcer, which is turning the format kind of crazy. Don't think we can keep this hand. Yeah, we passed the burn test as far as damage, but we don't have enough lands to operate here on the play. If this were on the draw, I'd snap this off, but it's a little too risky on the play. Looking at the same hand, basically, I think on 6 I'm going to keep it, put back the Searing Blaze. It's not exciting, but it's whatever. So, Wizards basically announced that there's going to be a larger ban announcement coming up. Most people presume on Monday. It could be even a week later, depending on how long it takes Wizards to figure out what they're doing. But most people are thinking at least Uro and a change to the Cascade mechanic is getting done. Some people think it might go further, like something like Field of the Dead or Mystic Sanctuary getting banned. Other people think things like Simian Spirit Guide might be on the chopping block. And if Simian Spirit Guide gets banned, a good bit of the turn 2 decks in the format are neutered. Neoform Combo, which was the original OG turn 1, turn 2 deck. Does that use Simian Spirit Guide? I believe it does. Alright, so we're getting turn 2'd by Valky here. Which is kind of unfortunate, but it's also whatever. Hopefully our opponent doesn't flip a land off the top of our deck. No, they flip a Skullcrack, which is fine. I'm not even going to bother dealing with that card, because we're basically already cold to it anyway. I'm just going to try to race them, which is conceivably possible. We just really need to draw another land. Well, yeah, kind of. There are currently 4 turn 2 decks in the format. There is Neoform Combo, which basically casts the card either Neoform or Eldritch Evolution on the old Allosaurus Rider card. That's going to suck. We need to actually bolt that, which kind of sucks. Takes away some of our damage. But, which turns Allosaurus Rider into a Gristlebrand, draws their entire deck, and then kills you with Laboratory Maniac. There is Tibalt's Trickery, which is a new card that was recently printed. Basically allows you to Cascade into Tibalt's Trickery, countering your Cascade spell, and then tries to Cascade into an Emrakul or an Omniscience or something and play Big Dumb Idiots and kill you. And it casts it, so you get the cast trigger off of Emrakul and such. So we're going to die because we kept a 1-lander against a Valky deck. Alright, we're dead here. Are we? I mean, we're not in great shape here, but I guess if we rip a land, we could potentially kill them before they kill us. They really should have attacked with that Goblin Guide, but, you know, whatever. So Burn survives because, like, this deck, which is one of the combo decks, can only play 3 CMC or higher, other than Valky, which transforms into Tibalt which you can cast as Tibalt's Cosmic Enforcer. It's unfortunate we're not going to be drawing a land, so we're basically dead here. Yeah, we're dead. Alright. So all of the decks have their weaknesses. The Tibalt's Trickery deck is cold to basically any interaction, especially things like Deafening Silence and Roiling Vortex, because it takes 10 off of casting its spells, because they're for free off of Roiling Vortex, and Deafening Silence keeps the Cascade bullcrap from happening. Neoform Combo has a fail rate because it requires 2 different cards to go off. It requires either Summoner's Pact or Summoner's Pact or Allosaurus Rider plus 2 green cards and either Neoform or Eldritch Evolution in addition to the mana to cast them. And there's a fail rate because Gristlebrand only draws 7 cards. There's a fail rate that some of the cards you need are in the bottom, like 4 or 5 cards of your deck. Like one of your Manamorphoses or one of your Simian Spirit Guides or the Laboratory Maniac is in the bottom. So many. Oops All Spells, which is one of the other turn 2 decks, is an entirely graveyard-based combo. So it's cold to things like Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, Relic of Progenitus if you can crack it in response, that kind of stuff. And then the Tibalt's Trickery deck, which is the newest one, is dead to basically a Stiff Breeze. But you have to find your hate cards in the first turn or 2, or you're dead. So Burn isn't great against any of those matchups. But a lot of those matchups are cold to the Force of Negation decks. So that kind of evens the field out a little bit. Because a lot of those decks are somewhat kept in check by the blue decks, which, while Uro's been the kingpin, have been a big part of the format. Sand isn't great, but I do think we keep the Deafening Silence, keeping Tibalt from getting played. We might get hit with a Leyline, which it looks like nope, they're just going to play Gemstone Caverns. Alright. So now we have to decide, do we just play Deafening Silence on one so we don't get turn 1? Oh, and Belcher's consistent, but once again, it's vulnerable. Alright, no Tibalt for you. Could have played Goblin Guide on one, but there's a chance they have like Simian Spirit Guide in hand, and yeah. Okay, they just have Valky, which is like kind of annoying. Curious which one they take here. Probably take Eidolon. Take Goblin Guide, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, it helps the opponent, don't get me wrong, but the funny part is sometimes you can use that knowledge to your own advantage. Just going to pass here. I really don't want to trade Eidolon for any other nonsense. What do they got here? Dismember? That's unfortunate. They did take, what, 6 to do that, though, so I guess I can't complain too much. Maelstrom Pulse? Or are they changing this into a Goblin God? Somewhat. What's up, GG? You walked into a really weird stream so far. Oh, okay. Don't think this is going to work out for you. Bloodbraid Elf. Well, that's annoying. Oh, are you freaking kidding me? So they get to Valky us anyway? That's really annoying. Yeah, playing against Tibalt again. And Deafening Silence couldn't even shut him down because they got it off of a Bloodbraid Elf. Kept a one-lander on him all to 6 game 1 and then just got Tibalted. Love playing with the deck, hate playing against it. I'm just really hoping this crap goes away on Monday too, in addition to Uro. Hey, GG, you're about to be beating me up. Or not. Okay. Sure. I think our opponent might be a little too conservative with their... I just said that the meta could adapt. I just think that the called for bans was a little too quick. The deck is ridiculous, though. I wasn't arguing that point. I was just laughing at the sheer amount of people that were already giving up on Modern after like not even a frickin' week. Like, I found that comical. Like, these are the same people that sat through Eldrazi Winter and all that horse crap and, you know, had no problems, you know, playing through that for months, but then once... Well, the next ban wave's coming Monday, so you won't have to wait very long. Cascade and the Tibalt and still lose. Sounds like a plan. Unfortunately, we don't have any outs to their... If they have ley lines, since I didn't put any wear tears in the sideboard. So if they do, they do. That was my only point, Blitz, was people just crying about the deck way too soon. You know, for instance, I've lost to blue-white a couple of times that's been heavily prepared for the deck. Both the blue variant and the Jund variant. Sand doesn't have any hate cards, but it's a rather fast, quick clock, so... Our opponent's on 7, so we're probably getting Tibalted on 2, but I still think I keep this hand. I mean, how long did we sit through Eldrazi Winter and Hogak? I mean, Hogak, we're definitely getting turn 2 now, by the way. Hogak, you know, we sat through 2 different iterations of that for what, about 3 months. Eldrazi Winter went on for probably about, I don't know, a good 3 months at least. And there were counters to those decks at first, you know. We had, curious what they do with their Tibalt. Do they exile it and just let it die? Nope, they take up. Alright, they get an Eidolon and a Prismatic Vista, which is fine, because I really didn't particularly want to draw Eidolon with this hand anyway. Opponent's got Anger of the Gods. It does kind of suck if they have another red source here. They do. Okay. Gonna hold up a Skullcrack just in case. Will also be me playing against 3 Valky decks. I'm guessing you had a bit more success, though. Alright. As long as there's no life gain cards in there, I don't really care what our opponent has. Opponent has access to 6, probably 7 mana this turn. They can do it. They can cast a lot of stuff. Yeah, I don't care about Season Pyro. Another Anger and a Dismember. That's the problem with the Jund deck, is unless they're packing Anger of the Gods, or I guess like Kitchen Finks, there's not really a lot that they can play that particularly scares me. Yeah, Blood Moon's fine. I'm cool with that. You have no green mana. I can just Skullcrack your butt. Untap and kill ya. You were on Blitz. Interesting. GG, when are you releasing your next video? Because I really don't want to cut into your view stuff. That's the one thing, is when we release videos on like the same day, it cuts into both of our views and kind of sucks. Well, when we release burn videos on the same day, it kind of cuts into both of our views a little bit. So I try to not release videos like the same day or two you've released videos. Just because, you know, fractured audience kind of thing with burn. I don't want to, like, when are you going to release your next video? Next day or two? Or are you releasing it sometime today? Because I've got a bunch of stuff that I got to put up the next couple of days because it's going to be useless anyway. So I might wait on the burn stuff for a couple of days. So, but it's got to be up before Monday because this crap's getting banned, so. This hand's fine. I mean, if we use GG's rule, we got 15 points of burn. I think it's a keep. You know, I always consider the best burn hands with a 1-drop creature, especially on the play. I still think this hand's a keep against anything but a turn 0 ley line. Oh, Gigi, you weren't here yesterday. So, I had a Boggles player yesterday. I was on Jund Tibalt yesterday. I had a Boggles player complaining about how he was playing Boggles because my deck couldn't interact with it, and that's the reason he was playing the deck. So I proceed to 3-0 him, except a punt on my part. Okay, now we're playing against a another Cascade deck. Shocker. But so he proceeds to cry about my deck sucking, or about the format sucking because of my deck, and I'm just sitting here going, dude, you're playing Boggles. You're talking about the format sucking, and you're playing Boggles. Like, if I'm going for a deck that's, like, warping the format, I'm not playing Boggles to counter it. Just saying. Do you have the Dismember here? Looks like you do. Oh, nope, you have the Stomp. Alright, I respect that. That's good. Not much I could do to play around that, I guess. Not with the hand I have, anyway. And here comes Tibalt Claws. Here comes Tibalt Claws. Right down Tibalt Claws Lane. I honestly think the Bone Crusher Giant... Oh, I was going to say. I honestly think the Bone Crusher Giant's a more effective play here. So they mulliganed to 7 and then didn't have a turn to Tibalt. I'm almost insulted. Well, what's hilarious is it got blown out by Blast Zone. A lot of these Jund decks play Blast Zone as an anti-hate card countermeasure, and it just blew out Boggles. It was so bad. Between that and Maelstrom Pulse, your main deck in Interaction... Oh, okay, so they Demonic Dread. Okay, I wondered if they maybe had the Demonic Dread problem. The ironic problem for them is this also shortens the clock for me. Hopefully they don't hit our other Lightning Helix. That's like the only card that matters here. Okay, they hit a land and a Maelstrom Pulse. Land is somewhat relevant. I mean, we could be hamstrung by our ability to yeah, I haven't even seen Boggles in for freaking ever. I think we go with Lightning Helix here. Just changes the dynamic a little bit. Eidolon's useless here, so I think we just pass, hold up Skullcrack, and then kill them on the untap. Like, what matchup is it good against? Like, a lot of the blue soup versions are playing like Supreme Verdict or like Far and Away. Yeah, I don't care about Blood Moon. Like, I legit don't care about Blood Moon with this hand because I've already fired off the only white card I had. What program do you use for your video editing, by the way? I don't really do a lot of editing with my stuff, which I probably should honestly learn how to a little bit. Mill's been okay. There's actually, I don't know if you've looked at Mill lately, but Mill actually got another 1 mana crab. So it was actually doing alright there for a bit, and then it just kind of fell off again. It's kind of like a tier 2, tier 3 strategy in the format right now. But it's been okay. Like, it's not like a fantastic deck in the format. Blitz, are you still in chat? So, there's a couple of players that I know play Mill. One is a guy I follow called Ghost X02, I believe. He played a good bit of Mill. He's currently on a hiatus because of some personal stuff or something. And then, Blitz plays, if you scroll up, Blitz MTG, I do believe, plays Mill as well. So I would go check out his Twitch page or give him a follow. Like, check out on Twitter. Once this match is over, I can actually go pull up the pages for you. But while this match is going on, I'm not going to. But yeah, there's actually a decent Mill deck floating around. It's not like tier 1, but it's pretty decent. I do think we keep his hand, like, once again. We don't have any of the hate cards, but Tibalt's kind of irrelevant. And one of their biggest hate cards against us is Leyline. And without Wear Tear, the card we'd be scared of is Leyline of the Vault or Leyline of Sanctity. Yeah, they're the only two. There's somebody else that plays Mill, but I don't remember who it is. If Blitz were still in chat, he'd know all that, because he's like... Actually, somebody created a Mill. I'm going to have to go back and check. Somebody actually created a page for Mill. I think it was Blitz. But someone legit just created a web page for just Mill. You have a Dismember or a Stomp or something? I think if they had a Stomp, they would have stomped this in response to a spell, so I don't think so. So I think they think Blood Moon's a bad strategy if they're fetching that way. They could have fetched a Forest there if they were still on Blood Moons in their deck. Okay. Anger of the Gods. Can respect that. Could hold up Skullcrack here, but I think getting Eidolon down is the most... I mean, there's all kinds of different things to monkey around with in Modern right now. And who knows what will end up being playable, you know? Opponent gets to Tibalt here. Just fine. Tibalt, not much Tibalt can actually do here. Tibalt can like exile this, which is like whatever, it's done its job, dealt 2 damage. So if we draw a 1 mana burn spell, they're just dead. As long as it's not Rift Bolt. Alright, so they're just dead. They don't play Force of Negation or any of that nonsense, so they're just dead here. Alright, we at least got the 3-1, hopefully the 3-2. We just trampled a couple Jund Tibalt decks, no biggie. It's not like you can't go back and rewatch them on the VODs or on YouTube later. War Dog, you know that. Alright, one last match. Sounds pretty good. We're up against the Luris deck, so it could be Hammer Time, could be Shadow. Most likely candidates. Burn doesn't usually play Luris these days. The Ozolith. Okay, so we're up against freaking Hardened Scales, of all things. Which I find interesting. I'm just going to hold up Searing Blaze this turn cycle. Welding Jar, sure. Gonna put them to the test. I suspect they'll use the Welding Jar here regardless, because they kind of have to. Which, that'll tap the Mimic here, still deal them the 3 damage. Ballista is kind of annoying that way. What's a bigger threat, the Ballista or the... I feel like the Ballista is the bigger threat here. Just because if it grows, it gets really scary. We really want them to tap that for a mana at some point. If you... Yeah, I don't know, Andre. There's a lot of things going on in Modern right now. There's a lot of things that were like Tier 1 that repressed a lot of the fun stuff, honestly. If you go to... And I really hate to make somebody go digging, but if you go through my YouTube page... in the community section, probably several months down, there was a link to like a bunch of budget decks that might get your juices flowing a little bit. Especially nowadays where there's like it was like a Reddit post with a bunch of budget decks. Might give you an idea for like some cheap like $75, $100 decks to get back into Modern. But they're okay. They're not like fantastic, but they're not going to cost you like an arm and a frickin' leg. I don't think we can die here. Actually, we could be dead here. No, because they'd have to sack the Ozolith. Are we dead? They sacked everything. We were actually dead here, but fortunately they didn't, so... Now the game gets harder. Eidolon's pretty bad against them because a lot of their stuff can be 4 mana or more. And they like to bring in Nature's Claim anyway. Boros Charms are also bad because they're a creature deck. I don't know, Gigi. How do you feel about Eidolon against Hardened Scales? I personally like to board it out. Don't think any of the other cards make any sense. Relic, obviously, they're not a graveyard deck. Deafening Silence doesn't really stop them terribly much, because a good bit of their plays are creatures. Roiling Vortex. I guess we could bring in Roiling Vortex because of Nature's Claim, but that just gives them a Nature's Claim target. And they're a creature deck, so Vortex is a little eh. It's kind of where I'm at. Like, on the play, it's alright, but on the draw, it's just terrible. Especially since they're like a bad affinity deck on the play. They can just get most of their crap in play before you can do anything. I've seen this deck popping up a little bit more and more. Who did I see playing against Hardened Scales? One of the streamers was playing against Hardened Scales yesterday as I was like taking a cursory glance through. I don't remember who it was though. I think we just gotta take our lumps here before they can untap and do something stupid with it. If they don't want to block, I'm perfectly fine with dealing them 4 damage here. Okay, they got the pathway thing. I don't want them to untap and like Ozlith or Hangerback Walk, not Hangerback Walker. Yeah, that would really have sucked if that would have died with that in play. Ballista is kind of rough. Actually, is there any way to play around this? I don't think so. I think no matter what we do, Swissbeer is dying, so I just want to get this dead. It's obviously dangerous with an Inkmoth in play, but the way I think the way this works, that's just going to do the thing there. And this sets us up to, as long as we don't die this turn cycle to Inkmoth, I think we're in decent shape. Phyrexian's Core is brutal. That is brutal. It's a lot of damage coming our way. I think we just smash one before they can untap their, oh, good grief. Ozlith is such a messed up Magic card. Problem is, they're not going to actually have to move the counters here. That's a May, right? Yeah, you may. So, it doesn't... actually stop anything other than us dying this turn. And they still get to chill with all these frickin' counters on things. So if their last card in hand is a Nature's Claim, which it certainly could be, we're in a lot of trouble. But I don't think we can really play around that here. Doesn't look like it is. Alright, we got the 4-1. That felt pretty nice at least. Honestly, the only part that really kind of sucks is that this was almost a completely useless league in terms of data, because presuming the trickery ban or errata happens like we suspect, that deck's going bye-bye. Hardened Scales, not a deck you see very much. Electrickery or Electro Dominance as Foretold Combo comes in a couple different flavors, and it's kind of a random deck that just sometimes appears and is decent, sometimes it's just terrible. And then finally we have what was the other match? Oh, that Temur Adventure, Emery, Heart of Curon, maybe Urza deck. We never saw an Urza out of them, so we don't know. Was just an interesting build from our opponent, but yeah, felt nice to get the 4-1. It's been a minute since I've had a good run with Burn. Granted, I don't play as much as GG does over there, but still nice to get a good run out of it before the bannings happen. Everyone talks about good Burn being positioned well after an Uro banning. And the problem with Burn being positioned well is when everyone thinks Burn is positioned well, that's when it takes a dump because everybody's prepared for it. You know, there are still a lot of decks out there like Heliod Combo. Some of the blue X control decks can be a pain even without Uro. Hammer Time's a tough matchup. You know, there are still decks out there, you know, Bogles, Soul Sisters to a lesser extent. You know, there are decks still out there that if Burn and Prowess are the top tier of the format initially, that people are going to play, you're going to run into those matchups, and Burn isn't going to be as good as it's supposed to be. So, I really don't like pulling out Burn when people talk about it being the tier 1 deck. I like Burn, when it's like an answer to the stupidity in the format. Like when the Uro decks got too cute and too inbred and just weren't packing enough hate. Like these Cascade decks that just don't respect or can't play cheap spells. So they get punished in those early turns. Especially since we're one of the few decks in the format that don't really care about Tibalt. You know, that's when Burn, I think, is well positioned, is situations like that, or when Burn's just being completely ignored. I don't like Burn when it's being talked about as the new tier 1 deck. It's like, no, Burn doesn't like being the attention on it. Burn likes being the kid over in the room, in the science lab, just brewing up his thing and then blowing up. Burn doesn't like to be spotlight on it and all the chemicals go goofy and you just, like, everything's a mess because you can't focus with all the attention on you. The Burn player just likes to sit in the corner and not be noticed until you're dead. So, no. Kroxa will always be a reasonable part of the meta, but it's not broken like its sister Titan or brother Titan or whatever Uro is. Kroxa's a powerful card. There's a lot of powerful shells for Kroxa. You have the Rakdos deck. It's appeared in some of the Rakdos Shadow decks. There's like this weird Rakdos Pyromancer deck that pops up in Pioneer and Historic from time to time. It's powerful for those formats. Uses like Stitcher Supplier, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Young Peasy, and Croxa in addition to Luris. And then it uses like Thoughtseize and Inquisition. You know, those kind of things to like punch holes in your opponent's thing and then kind of like one for one them down. I could see a deck like that popping up in addition to like the shadow decks that already exist. A lot of this depends on if they ban something besides Uro out of the control decks. I don't think what people don't understand is if Feel the Dead doesn't get banned, then the format doesn't change all that much. You're still looking at Feel the Dead control, Titan decks being particularly powerful. You know, you're still looking at a lot of the elements that made Uro decks annoying still existing, just without that centerpiece Uro to kind of hold it together against aggro. Like, it's really kind of hard to speculate right now without, like, knowing what the rest of the changes are. Because if they don't change the Cascade thing, that deck's still tier 0. Like, it doesn't matter if you're banning Uro. Oh, I totally agree. I don't think Uro should... I know this sounds stupid, but I don't think Uro should be getting the axe. In Pioneer, maybe. I haven't played Pioneer in months, so maybe it deserves a banning in Pioneer. But to me, in Historic, it's a fine balanced card. Sultai is one of the most played decks, but it doesn't overpower Goblins or Gruul or, you know, doesn't really overpower the other stuff. And Blue-White can compete with it. Like, there are Blue-White decks that can legitimately pound on the Sultai Uro decks. I just think Wizards is honestly banning Uro because people keep crying about it. And honestly, I don't think Uro is the problem. I honestly think it's dumb crap like Field and Sanctuary. I really think those two should get the axe and Uro should stay. And I know that's crazy as a Burn player, but I don't think Uro's the problem. So, like, honestly, I would love to see Sanctuary and Field both go with Uro. They could, but it's Wizards, GG. I don't trust them. For being completely honest. Wizards so mismanages things sometimes that you're just like, they honestly should ban Field and Sanctuary and see that where that leaves the Uro decks. Because I'm sorry, Uro's a great card, but Uro without Cryptic Command every turn, or Uro without 12 zombies behind it, you know, you deal with the Uro and you're sitting there going, I don't have many resources left. I'm dead. You know? I don't know. We'll see what else they ban. They might ban Field, they might ban Sanctuary, they might ban SSG. No. The problem is you still don't want to turn 3 Tibalt. They just need to change the rule to... They need to do the same rule change that they did with Boom Bust and the split cards. They need to do the same thing with the multi-phase cards. Just make it the total CMC so you can't do that shenanigans. I mean, it sucks for Bring to Light players, but I'd rather see Bring to Light players take a ding for the Cascade sins than Tibalt get banned. I don't think Tibalt needs banned. I think they just need to change the bloody rule. SSG could go simply because it enables stupid broken stuff. I mean, it kills ad nauseum, but, you know, it also hurts Neoform, also hurts Belcher, also hurts Electro Dominance, ironically, hurts Upsal. Does it hurt Upsal spells? I don't even remember if Upsal spells plays Simian and Spirit Guide. I don't think it does. I think Ups might be fine. But, and it hits, obviously, the Tibalt's Trickery decks. So yeah, I could see SSG taking a hit. If I had to guess which cards are going to be banned, obviously Uro. I suspect there's a change to the Cascade mechanic coming. And it might be it. I would say either Fuel or Sanctuary. One of those is likely to go. Probably like 50-50 on that. SSG, I'd probably put it about 40% being banned. And anything else is kind of a crapshoot. I don't know if there's anything else in the format that would, like, need to go. Maybe an unbanning to go with that all, too. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they did or not. It's been a while since I played Oops, so I can't remember if they played. But it's not like a huge... Like, it is a part of their strategy, but a lot of their acceleration is actually Pentad Prism and the Talismans. So they could find, like, some other way to substitute, you know, that turn 2 accelerator into the turn 3 combo. Hey, Jackson Benny, thanks for the follow. Well, yeah, but the thing, and I know this sounds stupid, so Trickery is much easier to deal with than the Tibalt or Tibalt Cosmic Imposter nonsense. You know, so, you know, it's really kind of hard to say where the format's going to go. I might do a speculation video on that later today, but it's really kind of hard to, you know, say where the format's going to go until we actually know what the bannings are, you know. That's why I kind of like Spike's approach with things. He basically doesn't talk about it, or, you know, just kind of dismisses it until the changes actually happen. Because until the changes happen, you don't really know how things are going to play out at the end of the day. So, anyways, Andre, are you still in chat? It looks like Andre left. I was going to go pull up the budget decks if Andre was still in chat, but I think since he's not, I'm actually going to go ahead and sign off. So, hey, no problem, Jackson. Like I said, I play a variety of decks here. I'm primarily known for Burn, but I've been getting into playing other decks lately just because I want to improve as a player. And, you know, sometimes you got to play the best decks to get better. As much as people hate playing against, you know, Tibalt Cascade or, you know, the Electrickery deck or the Trickery deck or whatever, sometimes you just got to play those decks if you want to win. It sucks, but, you know, if you want to do better at Magic, sometimes you've got to play the better decks. So, anywho, I've been John for MTG Nexus. Appreciate everybody hanging out this morning. If you want to get more content, please check out our YouTube channel. Link is down below. And I hope to see you in the next stream. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'll be streaming. I might do some more John Tibalt before it gets banned because I really like the deck. Might do some more Burn. I'm really not sure what I'll do tomorrow, but definitely be back tomorrow morning. So, appreciate everybody hanging out. And I'll be back around 9 a.m. tomorrow. So, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just so we're clear. All right. Hope everybody has a great day. See you, Gigi.